In this video, we will show you how to replace your vibration dampener on this Chevy Silverado. This will be located along the front of your engine. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. To be able to gain access to where we're going to work, we're going to have to disassemble all this area here, making our way down along the front of the engine. Let's start with the upper engine cover. In this port right here, you're going to find an 8mm headed mounting bolt. We can remove that and the cover. That's a captured bolt, so we can just go ahead and remove that and the cover at the same time. Quick inspection and we'll set that aside. Continuing on, we're going to dislodge the air inlet tube from our throttle body right here. You're going to find that you have a clamp that we're going to loosen. You can use an 8mm or a flathead screwdriver. Start pulling this forward. Now as we start to separate this, we want to focus down in this area. We can see our upper coolant hose. We want to dislodge it from this area. You can use a small prying device. I'm using a trim tool. Now we're still looking at the coolant hoses here. We're going to dislodge it from right here. This is just attached to the top of the fan shroud. You should be able to pull it right up and out of place. A quick inspection. We'll follow the upper coolant hose now. It's making its way across the top of the upper fan shroud. We're going to separate this as well. Just use your trim tool, pop it free. Now let's make our way down along each side of the fan shroud. You're going to find that you have 2 push clips on either side of the fan shroud. We're going to remove all 4 of these. To remove these, I'm continuing on with my trim tool. We'll just go ahead and start removing the center to unlock it. Once you have it unlocked, the outer portion should remove as well. We'll give that a quick inspection and set each of these aside. Repeat the process on the other side once you're done over here. Now you're going to find that you have 2 10mm headed mounting bolts to remove from the upper portion of the fan shroud. There's one over on the passenger side and one over on the driver's side in the same location. We'll go ahead and remove the pair. We'll take hold of the upper radiator hose, pull that towards the engine, take hold of the upper fan shroud, give it a wiggle, lift it straight up and out. Just a quick inspection of that fan shroud, we can set that aside. Now that we have the upper shield out of the way, you can try to move around the lower shield and dislodge it, and try to lift it up so you can gain access down along the bottom. The problem with that is you can cause damage to your fan or even the radiator, which is extremely common one way or the other. For me, it's best to go ahead and remove this fan with the fan clutch at the same time. I'm using my fan clutch removal tool with a 36mm adapter. Now we can start turning this counterclockwise. You can see it unscrewing from here. When this does dislodge, you want to be extremely careful it does not fall and hit up against that radiator, so I'm just going to hold it along the front of the fan clutch as I continue on. Now you can go ahead and reach down there and fully remove that lower shield. Now it's time to remove the serpentine belt. Before you remove it, it's important to make sure you take note of the routing. It goes over some pulleys and under others. Now we'll be using a 15mm all the way over towards the passenger side here. This is where the tensioner is located. We'll be right on the center bolt, turning this clockwise. That's going to release tension, and we can remove the belt from the pulleys. Slide this right off of here. Go ahead and give that a quick inspection and set it aside. Now with that belt out of the way, let's focus on removing our AC belt. You can see the AC belt tensioner right here. We'll be using a 3/8 drive ratchet and extension directly inside this square port, turning it clockwise, releasing tension. Now we can start removing the crankshaft vibration dampener. If you were looking directly in the center here, you're going to find a 15/16 mounting bolt. Let's go ahead and remove that. Now we can start removing that pulley. I'm using a 3-jaw puller here, making my way all the way towards the back side of the pulley so I can grab onto it with the ears. And then we're going to be pushing up against the crankshaft with the center driver here. For my tool, I'm using a 14mm. You may find when you're trying to break this free, it's going to spin the entire crankshaft with the pulley. This can be easiest if you use an impact tool. Now we can see this starting to pull away from the engine. We'll continue on. Okay, let's just change out our tool real quick. And there it is, friend. Now that we have that off of there, the next thing we want to do is pay attention to our crank seal. That's this rubber seal making its way around the shaft here. Go ahead and give it a quick wipe and a close inspection. Make sure it's not torn, worn, or damaged. If it is, now's a perfect time to replace it. We can tell that we did not have an oil leak here. That's a good sign. Now that we've cleaned that seal, let's apply some petroleum jelly along the areas that rest up against the crankshaft vibration dampener. This will help lubricate it so we can slide that in easily. You can also use clean motor oil if you want. Okay, friend, let's prepare to install our brand new crankshaft vibration dampener. Now to install that pulley, we want to make sure we have a pulley installation tool with a bearing. So when we're turning this area, it's going to be resting up against the bearing and we're not necessarily turning the crank as we continue tightening it in. Once we have the vibration dampener in place, we can also install this deep into the port there, snug it up, and then we'll continue tightening this, driving the pulley into position. All right, the center shaft is completely bottomed out. Let's continue on with tightening that mounting nut, driving this in. I'll be using a 32mm socket for this. We're driving that pulley in towards the engine. Now to be able to torque this, we're going to have to make our way underneath the vehicle. What we're looking for is our engine oil pan, the oil filter, the drain plug. Right along the back side of this is where your transmission bell housing is. Let's remove this circular cover. You can use pretty much anything as a small prying device. Since I have my trim tool, that's what I'll use. Use a flathead screwdriver if necessary. Now right in here is exactly what we're looking for. We can see all these teeth. We're going to use a pry bar. This will be easiest if you have a second person under here. They're going to want to take this pry bar, come in right up against one of those teeth there, and they're going to press it up against the transmission bell housing. While holding pressure in this area, we can torque that crankshaft mounting bolt. Now that we have this pressed in as far as possible, let's continue on to removing our tool here. I'm just going to turn this counterclockwise. There's that. Continuing on, we'll start installing our mounting bolt. Once it's bottomed out, we're going to torque that to 240 foot-pounds. Now when we torque this, we have our helper underneath that transmission getting ready to hold everything still for us. Once that's torqued, we're back underneath the vehicle. We can make sure we protect this port. Go ahead and reinstall that cover. Press it in, make sure it's secure. Now it's time to install our AC belt. When installing the AC belt, you want to make sure you have it on the inner portion of the pulley here. We'll also pay attention to the ribbed areas. We want to make sure the belt's properly seated. We'll take the belt, we're bringing it over our crankshaft vibration dampener here. Before we go too much further, let's use our 3/8 drive extension and ratchet. Go right inside that port on the tensioner. You should be able to flex this. It's going to give us some slack. We can continue on bringing this around the AC compressor pulley. This can take several tries. There we are. Once you feel as though you have it around everything perfectly, you just need to double check. I'm going to feel along the bottom of that vibration dampener. I can feel that I'm going over the top of the tensioner pulley as I need to, and as I make my way over towards that AC compressor pulley, that also feels like it's perfectly seated all the way around. Now we can install our serpentine belt. As you remember, during the removal process, it went over some pulleys and under others, and I told you to pay attention to the routing. Let's go ahead and start reinstalling that now. Okay, at this point I have everything loosely in place. I'm just going to confirm that I'm making my way around each one of the grooves of the pulleys perfectly. After that, we can continue on with applying some pressure, leading this belt down towards our idler pulley, right along the top of the engine here. Once we're holding pressure on that belt and we're sure that we're completely seated around each and every pulley, we can go ahead and pull on that tensioner. We're going to turn that clockwise. That's going to release some tension here so we can slide it under the idler. All right, now we've got that on there. One quick inspection. Ooh. Now, as you can see right along this area here, the belt does make its way out of the grooves that are part of the vibration dampener. If you were to leave it like this, the belt could potentially walk off of there, damage the belt, or cause other damage overall. You definitely need to fix this. Okay. One more quick inspection. Perfect. Now we're going to install our lower fan shroud. Along each side of the fan shroud, you're going to find that it has an alignment tab. If you are looking down inside the engine compartment at the radiator itself, you're going to find that each side of the radiator has a small hooked area for those tabs to slide into. Let's go ahead and start getting this in position. We're being extremely careful for the radiator. We do not want to cause any damage to those radiator cooling fins, otherwise you may have to replace the radiator. Once you feel as though you have that slid in, just go ahead and give it a little wiggle, confirming it's properly secured on both sides. Now it's time to install our fan. We have the threaded area along the back side of the fan clutch. That's going to make its way all the way down onto the threaded portion of our water pump. Bring this down into position. We're holding it up against the water pump, and now we'll turn it clockwise until it bottoms out. Once you have that bottomed out, continue on with your fan clutch removal tool. This time we're using it in the opposite direction, just a couple light taps. Now it's time to install the upper fan shroud. Let's have a quick look along the top of the lower fan shroud. On each side of the fan shroud, you're going to have the areas for the two push clips, but you're also going to have a small locating tab. As we bring this upper fan shroud down onto the lower, we'll make sure everything's aligned and we can start installing those push clips. can see my tab right here. Just going to double check the other side real quick. We've got our 2 push clips. 2 for each side. Let's repeat for the other side. Up along the top, we have our 2 10mm headed mounting bolts. Go ahead and start them both in. Snug them up. It's time to install the air inlet onto our throttle body. Before we start putting it on there, just double check to make sure there's no miscellaneous debris inside of the port leading into your engine. Let's go ahead and get this in position. We'll slide it onto the throttle body as far as possible and tighten our 8mm headed mounting clamp. Just have to squeeze this in. Attempt to remove that from the throttle body. It should not fall off. Let's start aligning our coolant hose. Slide that right into its port. You can see that poking through. This on here. Our next mounting point. Now it's time for our upper engine cover. Along the back side, we can see that there's 2 areas for some tabs. Now, if you were looking up along the top of your intake, there's 2 small hooks along the backside there. That's exactly where it's going to sit. Other than that, we have our 1 mounting bolt port right along the center of the intake. Start bringing this in. Press it into those hooks. Now we're going to align our mounting bolt. Start that in by hand and snug it up. Okay, friend, we finished our installation. Quick recommendations: it's always a good idea to do an oil change after you've completed this service. Aside from that, when you do start up the engine, let it run for approximately 5 seconds, turn it right back off, and triple check your belt. We need to confirm it's properly seated all the way around each and every one of those pulleys. After that, go ahead and restart the vehicle and take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.